If you're over 60 and you find yourself waking up 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times a night just to use the bathroom, you've probably already tried everything. You stopped drinking water after dinner. You cut out coffee. You even tried going to bed earlier, hoping that would somehow help. And yet, almost every single night, like clockwork, your body wakes you up at 1 a.m., then again at 3 a.m., then again right before sunrise. You shuffle to the bathroom half asleep, you go back to bed, and you lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering why this keeps happening to you and not to your spouse sleeping peacefully right next to you. Here's the truth nobody tells you. This is not just normal aging. Yes, it becomes more common as we get older, but common doesn't mean harmless, and it definitely doesn't mean there's nothing you can do about it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening inside your body when this occurs, why it's so much more frequent after 60, and the real, often overlooked reasons behind it that have nothing to do with simply drinking too much water before bed. By the end of this video, you'll understand your own body so much better, and you'll know which simple changes can help you sleep through the night again. So stick with me, because reason number 3 on this list is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might be the missing piece you've been looking for. Let's start with the basics. The medical term for waking up at night to urinate is called nocturia. It's defined as waking up 1 or more times during the night specifically because you need to urinate, and it's one of the most common complaints among adults over 60. In fact, studies suggest that by age 70, the majority of people experience this at least occasionally, and for many, it becomes a nightly occurrence that disrupts their sleep cycle entirely. Now, here's the first thing you need to understand. Your kidneys don't just produce urine randomly throughout the day. They follow a rhythm, almost like a daily schedule, controlled by hormones. One of the most important hormones in this process is called antidiuretic hormone, or ADH for short. Think of ADH as your body's natural do not disturb signal for your kidneys at night. When you're young, your body produces more ADH while you sleep, which tells your kidneys to slow down urine production so you can sleep through the night without needing to get up. But as we age, our production of this hormone naturally declines. Less ADH means your kidneys keep producing urine at a more constant rate, even while you're asleep, which means your bladder fills up faster overnight than it used to. Imagine your bladder is like a bucket, and at night your body is supposed to turn the faucet down to a slow drip. But as we get older, that faucet doesn't turn down as much anymore. The water keeps flowing at almost the same pace as during the day, and eventually that bucket fills up and needs to be emptied even at 3 in the morning. That's reason number 1, and it's a big one. But it's far from the only reason, and honestly, it's not even the most overlooked one. Reason number 2 has to do with your heart and your circulation, and this is something that surprises a lot of people. During the day, when you're standing or sitting, gravity pulls fluid down into your legs and feet. You might notice this as mild swelling around your ankles by the end of the day, especially if you've been sitting for long periods or if you have any issues with your veins or your heart. Now, here's the key part. When you lie down at night, that fluid that was sitting in your legs doesn't just disappear. It gets reabsorbed into your bloodstream and travels back toward your kidneys. Your kidneys then process this extra fluid and, you guessed it, turn it into urine. So that swelling you had in your ankles during the day basically gets redistributed and shows up in your bladder a few hours after you fall asleep. This is particularly common in people with conditions like high blood pressure, heart failure, or vein problems in the legs. But it can happen even in people who are otherwise quite healthy, simply because of how aging affects circulation and vein function over time. A simple way to picture this: think of your legs during the day as a sponge slowly soaking up extra fluid, and then at night, when you lie flat, that sponge gets squeezed out, and all that fluid has to go somewhere. Unfortunately, somewhere usually means your bladder. Now let's get to reason number 3, the one I promised you, the one that's often missed entirely. This has to do with the bladder itself, specifically its capacity and how well it empties. As we age, the bladder muscle, called the detrusor muscle, can become less elastic and less efficient. This means two things can happen. First, the bladder may not be able to hold as much urine as it used to, so it signals, "I'm full," sooner, even if there isn't actually that much urine inside. Second, and this is the part people often don't realize, the bladder may not fully empty when you go. So even after you've used the bathroom, there's still some urine left behind. This is called post-void residual urine. Here's why this matters so much. If your bladder isn't fully emptying during the day or at night, it reaches its "I'm full, wake up now" signal much faster than it should. So you might go to the bathroom, lie back down, and within 2 hours, your bladder is sending the alarm again. Not because your kidneys produce that much new urine, but because the bladder was already partially full to begin with. For men over 60, this is very often connected to the prostate. As the prostate gland naturally enlarges with age, a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia, it can press against the urethra and make it harder for the bladder to fully empty. For women, this can be related to changes in pelvic floor muscles, especially after menopause, when lower estrogen levels can affect the strength and elasticity of the tissues supporting the bladder. Think of it like trying to drain a bathtub through a partially clogged drain. The water does eventually go down, but slowly, and there's always a little bit left at the bottom. Over time, that little bit left adds up, and your bladder ends up working overtime, especially at night when you're lying down and that fluid shift from your legs is adding even more to the mix. So now you might be wondering, what can actually help with this? While I always recommend talking to your healthcare provider about your specific situation, especially if this is a new or worsening symptom, there are some general lifestyle approaches that many people find helpful. One simple strategy is timing your fluids differently throughout the day rather than just cutting back overall. Try to get most of your fluid intake earlier in the day and gradually taper down in the few hours before bed, rather than stopping abruptly right at dinner time. Another helpful approach, especially if leg swelling is part of the picture, is elevating your legs for a period in the late afternoon or early evening. This gives your body a chance to redistribute and process that fluid before you go to bed, rather than it all happening while you're trying to sleep. For those dealing with limited salt intake concerns, reducing sodium can also help, since excess salt causes your body to retain more fluid, which often ends up being released at night. And if you suspect your bladder isn't fully emptying, techniques like double voiding, where you urinate, wait a moment, and then try again before getting up, can sometimes help reduce that leftover residual urine. It's also worth mentioning that certain medications, including some blood pressure medications and diuretics, can affect nighttime urination depending on when they're taken. This is exactly the kind of thing worth discussing with your doctor, since adjusting timing, under medical guidance, can sometimes make a noticeable difference. The bottom line is this: waking up at night to urinate after 60 isn't just something you have to silently accept as part of getting old. There are real physiological reasons behind it, from changes in hormone production to fluid shifts related to circulation, to changes in bladder capacity and emptying. And understanding which of these factors might be playing the biggest role in your situation is the first step toward actually addressing it, rather than just living with disrupted sleep night after night. If this video helped you understand what's really going on with your body, do me a favor and share it with someone you know who's been struggling with the same thing, maybe a parent, a spouse, or a friend who's mentioned waking up multiple times a night. Sometimes just knowing why something is happening can be incredibly reassuring, and it can also be the first step toward having a more informed conversation with your doctor about what might help. And if you found this helpful, consider subscribing, because we cover topics just like this every week. Real explanations for the health changes that come with aging, explained in a way that actually makes sense, without unnecessary jargon and without making you feel like just another statistic. Your sleep matters, your comfort matters, and understanding your own body is one of the most powerful tools you have at any age. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.